Well, good morning, everyone. I have 10:31 at least. My name is John Houghton. I'm the president of the Historical Society, so I'd like to welcome you on behalf of myself and my fellow members of the board, many of whom are actually here. This is our third presentation of the summer. We have something like 4 to go, though I get confused easily with big numbers like that. The next one I know is on the Saturday afternoon of Lake Fest weekend. In the afternoon, so we don't conflict with the Lake Fest parade in the morning. It's at 2 o'clock, I think.
I think it is.
In the Academy Library. John Ziegler has had on display there for much of the spring a collection of presidential and vice presidential autographs with the further restriction that they are all signatures made during the person's term in office as opposed to 20 years later. So come see. John will give a talk about the autographs, and we can wander around and look at them all. 2 o'clock, unless you hear differently, on the afternoon of, I think it turns out July 17th or something, whatever that afternoon is of Lake Fest weekend. Today, we're talking about Bicentennial Culver. 99% of this is Jeff Kenney, my friend on the board, my distant cousin, who's worked on all this kind of stuff as Academy archivist, as local historian, as editor of the Culver Citizen, and just a person who's interested in all this stuff. I'm going to chime in just for a little bit in the middle, but it's basically Jeff's show. I did also want to mention, however, that we're still eager to take new members. There are membership forms available with my friend James, our administrator, right over there. Also, if you would like to come to our annual fundraising concert in August, he has forms, tickets for that as well over there. So we're happy to take your money for either or both of those causes. One of the things that you get as a member of the Society is a discount on the fundraiser tickets, but this year we're also adding 2 other things. We have 2 books, magazines coming out. One is a children's book that Jeff and I and Shannon have worked on, and I think it's actually at the printers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we ordered our sample copies.
There we go. And the magazine, which we're hoping will come out annually, we're looking for a printer that will charge us a little less money than the one that's currently given us a bid, but at least the magazine itself is done, and we're just shopping it around to find somebody who will print it for us for less than an arm and a leg. An arm I would settle for, an arm and a leg is just a little too much. So that's where we are. Looking, yes, Shannon.
This is just a push for the book, and I have to give these 2 credit for it. I'm Shannon. We are doing a mystery series, and this is so perfect. When you have it can be any child between I think the age of 3 all the way up to 15 are going to love this book. And it takes place in Culver, and it's hopefully going to be the start of the series. But it is enchanting, and it is so good. Think. Okay, I know John, you're going to get Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, and it all happens in the park. And it's very interactive. So I'm really encouraging you when the book comes out. I think you're going to be. I was just blown away by it. I mean, I did not do that much in it besides proof things. But these 2 really get credit. So watch for it. It's coming. Membership, you're going to get it, but otherwise it'll be for sale. And
yeah, you'll be able to buy it on Amazon and all.
Yeah, and Amazon. And we'll let you all know that. But it is a book your house must have if you live in Culver. Okay.
There you go. So without further ado.
You got another question, John?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to delay the program. Just a little plug for the program by John Ziegler. He did it. I went last Wednesday. It's wonderful. And he's also giving it this Tuesday. I believe it's at 3 o'clock. In case you think you might be too busy Lake Fest weekend. But don't miss it. It's excellent.
I'll add a plug. There's a little panel there about vice presidents who visited Culver. Just saying. The more important part,
Yeah, I wonder who knew about that. Yeah. So without further ado, here's Jeff to get us started on Bicentennial Culver.
Okay, well, I'll also give a little plug. John mentioned the annual. We're pretty excited about it. Not only is it this sort of publication thing we hope to do annually, a new thing for the society, but it's going to tie into the talk, but it also is kind of a nice coincidence. It's the America 250, so the publication is themed around that, as are, if you hadn't figured out, all our programs, even though this one is specifically Bicentennial Culver, all of our programs this summer tie into the theme. And I mention that partly because the annual has an article you can check out. Obviously, there's not a lot of Revolutionary War action in Culver, but there is a remote tie. So there's my little hook for, if nothing else, it ties into this program in our annual magazine. It'll be out in a few weeks, we hope. So As you'll see here in a moment, we didn't just want to do this program around 1976. We are going to get to that. And of course, a lot of us in this room remember the bicentennial, so it's kind of neat to be here 50 years later thinking about, I can't remember the long string of letters, but the 250th. Not the bicentennial, but the whatever.
Semi-quincentennial.
That's it, exactly, Jonathan. Rather than just focus on that, we wanted to also kind of look at kind of patriotic themed celebrations in Culver, kind of heritage themed celebrations. We're not going to go through everything, but just a few highlights. And one of them is really pretty obscure, but I had to throw it in. I was digging around the archives of the... Oh yeah, can we get the backlights off? Yeah. If possible. Thanks. There we go. Popcorn's available. No. So I was digging through the archives at Culver Academy's archives, right? And I find this series, there's more of these pictures that I didn't put on the screen, but I find this series of pictures of, they're clearly Black Horse Troopers, but people wearing Civil War garb. And anybody recognize this house over here? The Allegheny House there in the Maxicaki Village. And I think, Carol, you actually found these. I think it might be you that found these in the archive. But, so, thanks to Carol. But these, so what are these weird things? Well, I don't even remember how I stumbled onto this, except that around the time of Indiana's bicentennial, I stumbled into the fact that the state of Indiana commissioned a sort of movie. This is 1916, right? So 1916. So it's silent. It's, it's pretty crude and primitive. Most of it's lost to history today. Actually, there might be a little sound, because I think James Whitcomb Riley has a little part in it where he reads some poetry. But the point is, they make this movie with highlights of Indiana history in a movie. So they came to Culver and they filmed Morgan's Raid in Culver, which didn't happen in Culver. But so that's what you're seeing here. And again, you can see the movie camera up there to the left. And that's, I don't know if you recognize that road. Those of you who heard our dedication at Maxicaki Village, you were on that road. That's 18B Road facing the lake back when it was still dirt. There they are. And that, again, the Ben-Hur house, we kind of call it, where part of Ben-Hur was written. So the 1850s Allegheny Hotel there on 18B Road. So anyway, that's not bicentennial, but it is Indiana centennial, so I thought that was kind of a neat thing to throw in there. And you can see a little article from the Vedette about it. So
one of the things that's fairly common for celebrations of the 4th, particularly those who look back a little bit, is fireworks. And if you look at the entire history of it, which I am ashamed to say I have done, they are almost always at the Academy, though not always. And the times when it's not always, of course, get people's dander up and their angry letters back and forth to Citizen, and fireworks in the other sense. But here we see fireworks at the Naval School. This is in 1906. So they've only been in business at the Naval School for 4 years, and already fireworks are a characteristic part of the summer. Culver, the town, tends to not have a lot of 4th of July celebrations of its own. I think partly because if you have the military school just down the road, why throw a parade of your own? You go over and watch them. They parade all the time. They know what they're doing. So we sort of hand off the 4th of July business to the Academy as a general rule, not just the fireworks, but celebrations in general. We can go on to the next slide.
This is 1908.
This is 1908, and in this, so this is an ad that's in the paper. The town is having fireworks in 1908, and there's an article in Citizen that goes along with it that says, the 4th of July committee have almost finished their canvass for funds and have begun the arrangement of the program. Aside from 2 balloon ascensions by Fred Murray, one in the forenoon and one toward evening, there will be a host of other free attractions and sports to occupy the entire day. A big ball game is scheduled for the afternoon, and there will be evening fireworks. The advertising will be out in the country, thoroughly covered by the end of the week. 2 special trains, one from South Bend and one from Terre Haute, have been asked for and will no doubt be granted, in addition to excursion rates on all the trains. So, not to put too fine a point on it, but they're looking to get people into town to spend money, right? So, lovely to have fireworks, but the trains give it away. This is an excuse to get people here for the weekend. You can go on to the next one. A lot of these summers, the Citizen prides itself on the fact that it was a quiet weekend. I think maybe they were just annoyed by small kids setting off fireworks, maybe by big kids setting off fireworks, but in 1910, for instance, they comment that it's been a nice, quiet weekend, Culver's sane 4th. In 1912, they say, well, it was very quiet unless you went to the Women's Christian Temperance Union picnic down in Arlington. And that year there were fireworks on the Academy Pier. 1915, the Academy gave its usual beautiful exhibition of fireworks, and nearly every cottage had fireworks as well, so there was a circle of red fire around the lake. This is from 27, and kind of a typical pattern that we see, I think Jeff would probably agree, with Academy activities in general in this period, is they want people to come and see things. We're having the final ball, please come and watch Officer's Figure. We're having parades, so the Academy is eager to get people onto campus and see the stuff that's going on. The kids are marching, they're firing guns, whatever. It's more interesting for them if there are people there to watch. So this is the Academy announcing all the activities that are going to be going on, and people are invited to come see them. The idea of having a field day on the morning of the 4th of July lasted till I was a midshipman, certainly. I remember we had to go out and do all sorts of, tugs of war and things that we wouldn't ordinarily have done in the course of a day in naval school as part of the 4th of July celebration. Here we see actual fireworks on the 4th. Every now and then the Citizen would have a photograph on the front page of somebody who'd have managed to keep their camera shutter open and take pictures of the fireworks going on.
Glorious black and white.
In glorious black and white, yeah. And Jeff and I, you have to like this, because Jeff and I spent all week looking for this poster. This is one of the summers when the school is, when the town is doing it, 1932. And again, clearly the interest here is getting people to come. By now, the big period of the hotels and trains is fading off. People have cars. So we're trying to encourage tourism to town, so having fireworks. These posters go up lots of places besides here in town, obviously, since the fact you can tell it says Culver, Indiana is an indication that it's going to people not actually living in town. There are fireworks between the town and the Academy every year up until World War II. No fireworks during the war. There was a war on. At the end of the war, the Academy seems to pick up a little sporadically. Colonel Elliott announces in 1946 that there are not going to be fireworks, which there were the year before. So they're kind of on and off. The Korean War comes along. In 1953, they said there's going to be no fireworks. In 1952, there were fireworks. 10,000 people came to see. Now that's according to the estimation of Chief Mikesell, who may have been off by a power of 10. But people came, and of course we did this when I was a kid. Still, people came not just to the Academy campus. Some people did that. But people were lined up on the road all the way around the lake. So the state highway patrol would be here in order to supervise traffic, and it would take 1 or 2 hours to get everybody out from where they had been sitting along the various drives around the lake in order to watch the show.
Question.
Yeah.
It says 1932 there. 29 was the beginning of the Great Depression. How was that involved in this whole thing?
To the best of my knowledge, they were touting it. I think if they put it this way, they were touting it for cheap entertainment. You could come to Culver, have this lovely evening with fireworks, maybe spend a few pennies at one of the bars, or buy a sandwich or something. But it was cheaper than a lot of other things you could do. I think that was what it boiled down to.
The egg and spoon race was pretty affordable. Culver battled Argus in baseball, number one. But,
Is it true that Henry Harrison Culver got the town through the Great Depression with his banking and his finances?
Well, Mr. Culver was long gone, but
W.
Osborne certainly did.
Yeah. The bank president.
He was
Well,
the bank cashier.
He wasn't the he was the president.
He's son-in-law of the president. But this bank was the only bank in the state that was able to open up again after after Roosevelt had that the 3 or 4 days when all the banks were closed. And the only one that opened up without any further restrictions was the one right over there. So it was WO all the way.
In fact, they did a big renovation, added marble and everything during the Depression, which must have seemed really in your face.
Yeah, right. But he wanted sorry, sideline on WO. But he wanted to convey that it was the kind of bank you want to put your money in. So they did this lovely, upgrading the thing in the 30s. The bank that we look at now, which looks so ugly and brutalist to many of us, right? But that was a WO who was then probably in his late 70s, early 80s, saying, I am up to date, and my banks are up to date, and I'm going to use the latest architecture in order to convey to you that your money is safe with us because we're keeping up with the times. They're not just some small town bank. So yeah, everything that got us through the 30s was WO at work.
Thank you.
Sure. The town has, so the academy says we're going to put the money into a scholarship instead. It's costing us whatever it was, $30,000 in modern money to put up these fireworks every summer. Instead of that, we will create a scholarship for a kid from the public school to come to naval school for the summer. In fact, I eventually got that scholarship. So that was, I ended up going to winter school. My parents had said that they would pay for one or the other. And when I got the summer school scholarship, then suddenly, here, have a little wool uniform. You can spend the winter here too. So the town takes it over in the 50s. Sporadically, the Beach Lodge, the town board, the Chamber of Commerce pay for it. And the academy gets a new superintendent, Del Spivey, and Delmar Spivey says, I did not spend all that time in Luchstahl, whatever it was, in order to not have fireworks. We were going to have fireworks. They picked it up again, and everybody was ecstatic. General Spivey walked on water for getting fireworks back at the academy. And Colonel Gregory was viewed as, a stingy old boy. And the Citizen in 1962, I think it is, actually has an article, again, suspicious there were 5,000 people here that year too. And the article says, we should all thank the Academy. Imagine how expensive it would be if we tried to do this on our own. And so the thing keeps up as a public event, at least in the 60s, because when I was a woodcrafter in 1964, it was still the let's line around the lake, everybody sit in their cars and watch the fireworks go up. I'm not sure when it faded.
I think it really faded. I mean, someone can chime in, but I mean, when I was a kid, certainly, and into the 90s, and when my kids were kids, I mean, really, when the town began, as we now have 3 fireworks shows, we have sort of, well, maybe more than that, but we have 2 town ones, I think.
Yeah.
I can't keep track, but once the town started doing fireworks, I think the academy became less the place. But, I think a lot of us may remember, if you weren't on a boat or something like that, you go to campus, and it was sort of a picnic environment. I mean, there are hundreds of people out on the field watching the fun. That was my childhood experience of just going to campus, and you got to see the pageantry of the summer camps and all that.
And I think the school, too, probably got a little more concerned about having the campus overrun by 5,000 people.
There was a bit of that vibe, but yeah.
Yeah, well, if I had my kid there, I would think that's way too. Anyway, so fireworks, we can go on to the next slide. I'll talk about fireworks in one if I don't. So changing the subject a little bit, this has nothing to do with the 4th of July, but it has to do with July. The pioneers arrived here in late July of 1836. And so for the anniversary of that, a group of pioneer families said, let's put up a monument over on where the Boris farm was. By then it had passed into the Academy's hands. We'll hand carve a monument. Originally it had white paint in it. And it'll be a permanent memorial, and we'll set up an association of pioneer families. The Association of Pioneer Families, I think, lasted 2 or 3 years before it collapsed under its own weight. But the rock obviously wasn't going anyplace, so it stayed there for quite a while. Still there now. In 2011, I wrote an article for the Citizen saying we're up on the anniversary of this rock. We should do something, have a little party. I think we went out and blew a conch shell, which is what they did when they arrived here to let people know that they'd gotten here. And that kind of might have been the end of it. The Vaughn family, who were active in the society at the time, they're from Indianapolis. Joe was maybe more active at Sandy. His wife was a descendant of the Thompson family, one of the ones on the rock. And so they got in contact with the state. So we used to have blue warning signs. Could those be replaced? And the state said maybe. And the Vaughn said, well, how about one of those big state signs? And the state, oh no, don't be ridiculous. It's important to you that the first settlers in Marshall County stopped there on their first night in the new town, but consider that there were 93 counties in Indiana. Every county had some place where the settlers arrived for the first night. It's only historic to you, not to the world. So the Vaughns looked at various things that might have done. Maybe put a shelter over it. They went to Conner Prairie to see if they could get a period-looking shelter to put over it. Any didn't necessarily work out either, but eventually Mark Voris, another decade goes by, and Mark Voris in 2020, 2019 says, we could just put up one of those signs. The company is over in Ohio, they'll make the sign for you. You don't have to go through the state. As long as you don't put a picture of the state, this is, if you look closely, is an outline of the lake, not an outline of the state at the top. So we organized a fundraiser over GoFundMe. The society lent its not-for-profit status in order to make these donations tax deductible, and we put it up in the summer of 21. After which it promptly cracked and fell over. You may remember there was a Wednesday and a Thursday when we had near tornado conditions over on the east shore that summer. And apparently aluminum is more fragile than you might have thought, and it cracked in two pieces. Either that or somebody came over with a baseball bat. In any case, so we ordered a replacement. The replacement actually has Mark's name on the bottom because sadly he died in August after we put the sign up. But the new one came in January of 22, and they even sent us a replacement pole, which we didn't really need. It's still in my garage if anybody wants to put up a sign. So we now have it. It has survived for 4 years. I don't want to jinx anything. So another of our local historical July events, you can go over and remind yourself of the pioneers arriving late in the evening of July 26th in this not really all that deserted area, because it's an Indian village half a mile south, but in their minds, this deserted area to welcome themselves to their new home. So back to you for the rest of this. Excuse me.
Well, again, not bicentennial, but just to point out, it's not that there were no parades in town. In the intervening years, of course, as I think a lot of us know, almost every town and community in America didn't just commemorate Memorial Day with a little thing at the cemetery. There were often parades through town. Of course, the memory of the wars was fresh in everyone's mind, World War II, Korea. So this was a regular thing. Here we are, right outside, the doors here. I think that's the 1950s. Some of these are 40s, but, this kind of commemoration, this kind of patriotic event that was Memorial Day, parades through town, the VFW, when we had an American Legion post, all of that. So, during those intervening years, it's not, there certainly was, in addition to July 4th, there was certainly a patriotic ethos with those events. But that brings us to the great celebration of America's Bicentennial. It's even on the phone book cover. There's the Culver phone book in 1976. The Bicentennial quarters and stamps, and, again, those who were around and remember it, it was quite a thing. What are these flags? This is I hope the sound comes through for this next little video clip. This was kind of an interesting thing that came up earlier this year. I'll let the video play and then talk about it.
Meanwhile, in the Coliseum buildings adjacent to the practice field, cadets, members of the staff, including Trip Coordinator Lieutenant Colonel Fred Lintner and Captain Hunsick's wife, were busy with the unpacking of flags. These were not ordinary flags, but 64 special ones made for Culver for this event. These bicentennial banners, authenticated by the Flag Heritage Foundation in Lexington, Massachusetts, are replicas of those used by Americans during the Revolutionary period. They are the only set of 64 in existence. The special flags are an important Culver Bicentennial project and have been made a permanent part of the Culver archives.
Well, that last line is a bit of a problem, but so who was in that film? Well, I don't know if you could hear it. It was a little quiet. Jeff Hunsick was there. Jeff is still very much around. What's that?
Sarge Hudson?
Yeah. Sarge Hudson was there. Fred Lintner was there. So this comes from me. Let's see. Getting actually Jeff Hunsick saying, hey, it's almost the 50th year since '76. Did you know about these Revolutionary War flags? Well, no, I didn't. So Dr. Whitney Smith here of the Heritage Foundation was kind of the country's foremost flag expert, and he collaborated with Culver Military Academy, Culver Academies by that point, to create these exact replicas of 64 colonial Revolutionary War flags, the only set in the world to this day, as far as we know, but certainly at the time. Important enough that the Franklin Mint reached out to Culver and made silver ingots of all these flags that you can find online, and they're quite collectible and all that. The Academy used them. What this film clip was, and I'm going to put it online here in the next few days. That film clip was from a 1976 film covering Culver Academy's participation in the Cotton Bowl that year in January, carrying those flags. And then in the inaugural, in January of '77, they carried the flags. The troop carried the flags. Later that year in '77, and I can't remember the name of the the society that likes flags, but they have this conference of the World Society that likes flags, who has a name. That'd be great if that was a name, wouldn't it? Anyway, so they have this in D.C., and after they have their conference borrowing these flags from Culver, they, the Anderson House in Washington, D.C., I don't know if anybody's familiar, they're a Revolutionary War Museum. They borrow the flags, and they put all 64 on display on through into late 1977, I think early 1978. The question that arose, and I thought about, do I really want to say this? Yeah, I do. We don't know where they are. So if anyone knows where they are, it's crazy. So yes, I talked to Fred Lintner, because literally Fred Lintner was the guy who packed them up to go to D.C. I'm not knocking Fred, because he may have had nothing to do with their return. I called the Anderson House, and they didn't have any record of it, although to be fair, probably these were not loaned to them. They were probably loaned to the flag people, and who let them be displayed there. So. Dug around campus, dug in the archives, don't know where the flags are. These things happen. I do hope, of course, what will happen is in next year, we'll find all the flags and it'll be a little too late. But if any of you know where they are. I hope they turn up at some point, but it could be they were damaged in some incident. I don't know, honestly. But I still think it's, what's that?
How many years was it before you found the pastel portraits again?
Right, yeah, the Gold Star portraits of the World War I folks were, 70 years, almost. So I still think it's definitely worth talking about, because it's a pretty neat, significant connection to the Bicentennial for Culver. Even if we don't ever find them, it's still neat that they existed. I just thought that was kind of a neat history mystery, whether or not we solve it. But that brings me to just a quick run through, and I won't belabor this, but I went into the Culver Citizen for 1976 just to see what was percolating in Culver. And so some of this is going to be just what was going on in Culver in 76, kind of a big year for the town. Not just because of the Bicentennial, but I think it all ties in. So if you're from Culver or you have a background in Culver, you'll definitely recognize some of these names and faces. And you can see here in February of 76, Mrs. Roger Wise and Mrs. Ted Strang, Chucky Strang, hold one of the Bennington flags, 3 Bennington flags during the Pledge of Allegiance, presented to the 3 Culver school system elementary schools. Some school, there's Superintendent Mills behind them. That's a fun picture. Poster contest winners, also February of 76, and some familiar names in the area. I won't read them all, but I posted this on Facebook actually yesterday, so you can get on and look at the historical. That's your excuse to go like the Culver Historical Society Facebook page. But anyway, so again, these kids won prizes for their patriotic posters they made. Not really to do with the Bicentennial, but just to kind of frame up 1976 in Culver. Hockey begins at Culver Military, at Culver Academies, and then only Culver Military for, as far as terms of hockey until 20-some years later. But yes, so the then only outdoor rink is dedicated in February of 76, and varsity hockey begins anew at Culver and becomes the huge behemoth that it is. May of 1976, I found these pictures some years ago in the not these pictures, but some pictures from this parade in the archive several years ago. I'm going to post them also on Facebook, but just because there's a great real representation of some of the town entities. You can see people lined up right over there watching this Loyalty Day parade. So Bicentennial themed Loyalty Day parade. There, of course, is the Black Horse Troop. You can see there's the State Exchange Bank over there. This was actually the county's Bicentennial float. Some of the dignitaries in the parade stand. Someone forgot the letter O, but too much noise. I was not the Citizen editor until later, but I had my share of typos too. But these are just some shots. Again, I'll post these online, but kind of fun little snapshots of the people and the entities and organizations in town. You can see the kids on their bikes. This is a shot over by the elementary school. The brownies and I think they're just brownies. It might be Girl Scouts. And then you can see them over on Lakeshore Drive. So just all the Bicentennial pageantry, VFW, American Legion, the marching band from the school, the Cub Scouts and/or Boy Scouts. Amazingly, Abe Lincoln was there. Who knew? The Academy can get anybody, right? You can see the Lakeshore Drive there in the lower right. Well, both of those, all those pictures actually. Interestingly, the town made a point, you can see the businesses as part of this, of kind of honoring, oh, I got cut off, sorry, I got cut off, honoring bicentennial graduates who would have been local kids that were graduates of CMA. Some familiar names and faces. And I had kind of forgotten this. John and I have, worked with this book quite a lot. An interesting Depression era project in the 30s was the creation of what becomes this book called Our Townships Yesterdays. It's a series of columns in the Culver Citizen written by Edwin Corwin, who was a staff member of the Academy, but primarily the Woodcraft Camp, who wanted to detail the history of the township and the town here. And that was actually funded by, was it WPA? It was one of the...
Yeah, so he got WPA funding to work on it. The funding expired in March. He wasn't done yet, so he kind of wrapped up the last chapter, and then the Citizen printed it for him.
So it's printed in the Citizen, and then in honor of the Bicentennial, Tri-Kappa printed it as a book. And you can see Mrs. Newman and Mrs. Lemler looking over this tall, many of you may have read it or have it in your closet or something like that. But
If you don't, we have an annotated edition available on Amazon for a modest price.
Yes, John and I worked on kind of a more compact sized version that never...
Well, it's digital. You can't get any more compact.
Yeah, we were going with, anyway, long story, but there it is. So anyway, yeah, you can get it on one. The Max and Cookie tour boat was docked. Just again, a kind of throwback. This is one of its last summers that it was operating. I think it went through 78, but there it is getting ready to launch for the summer. I just threw in, of course, there's this spate of kind of bicentennial themed advertising from some of our beloved local businesses. Mr. T's had not moved out to Academy Road yet. It was just a block away from here. And there they are doing their bicentennial Photorama coupon book. Even Hooks got in on the action, competing with Mr. T's a block over there now, CVS. Just again, the bicentennial theme is everywhere. Not, as we pointed out earlier, not unusual that we would have fireworks, but they did kind of pull out all the stops that we might expect that summer for the fireworks from Culver Academies. I do think it's funny, they lit the sky for approximately 1/2 hour, which they still do, but
Yeah, it's always a half hour.
Yeah, always a half hour. Leslie Shepard, just saw Leslie the other day, presenting the last of 4 bicentennial plates to Jane Scruggs, Culver Library, right upstairs, as Lynn Marie Honzik looks on. The plates and cabinets to put them in are a gift to the Max and Cookie Junior Women's Club, and one has been presented each year for the last 4 years. I don't know where those are.
The flags.
Right, with the flags, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, they're with the flags, yeah. This was an interesting find for me. I didn't really know the date this happened, but this is, well, I'll get to what I'm getting to in the next slide, but this is the 4th of July, and it's a parade, but it's not just a 4th of July parade, it actually has a purpose we'll get to in just a second. You might notice, I don't know, this is an unusual place to have a parade. This is South Main Street, if you can't tell. There's Council Fire, Woodcrafters, the Culver High School Marching Band. I wondered who the little bicentennial miss is, as they label her, there's no name. Culver Eagles, this is the Eagles Lodge that used to be out on State Road 17. So this is the 4th of July parade to the cemetery. So if I think most of us know, if you're familiar, you've driven by it, or maybe you've attended a ceremony there, where our Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies for the town typically happen is this Veterans Memorial over in the south, southwest?
Southeast.
Thank you. Directions. Southeast corner of the town cemetery. And so this is when this is dedicated, and you can see, the ceremony and much of what we see today there. This begins in 1976 with the Bicentennial. So there was a parade out to the cemetery to dedicate this Veterans Memorial that is still there and still kind of the hub of those activities for the town. The town hall is where we think of the town hall. It moves there. As you may know, it moved around. It used to be on Cass Street, kind of across from Grace Church to the east. It was actually where the fire station is briefly. And what had been the Culver Citizen Press, that building down there on Plymouth Street, just a few blocks, literally 2 blocks over there, becomes the town hall in 1976. So there's a big dedication and all that summer. And also, the town park had quite a and I didn't really get to researching this. I suspect it might have been a bicentennial inspired. There was a sort of a federal grant program that I think was national but certainly statewide. And Culver's Park had a really significant renovation in '76. The beach lodge, a lot of what at least what I remember growing up with, the paved sidewalks down there, just the basketball court improvements, all these things that expanding the beach. So they're dedicating the Culver High School swing band was serenading everybody. I didn't know they had a swing band in 1976. There you go. And at the park dedication in the Culver Town Park. So, and I.
Saxophone is right here.
Oh, there you go.
Was that? Oh, yeah. Okay, you were in the swing band.
Yep.
I have to find out all about it. That's great. Are you in the picture? No.
I probably am.
Yeah. Another bicentennial related moment that's it seems sort of remote from Culver, but it's not. The first Johnny Appleseed Festival in Fort Wayne, I think, was organized because of the bicentennial. Happens in '76, and their first honoree is a lake resident, Dr. Joseph Hayford, who was on the South Shore. And I did a whole Culver Citizen article about this. It's again a little more remote from the bicentennial, except when he was honored for it. He gets the Pewter Bucket Award from the Johnny Appleseed Festival in '76. Because when he was a Boy Scout in 1924, they're on a hiking trip and out in the wilderness, and there he finds the grave of John Chapman. Well, John Chapman is better known as Johnny Appleseed. And Johnny Appleseed was from the East Coast, but traveled, as I think many of us know, traveled around the country planting apple trees, etc. And he ends up in Fort Wayne with a family, with a relative, and he passes away there in Fort Wayne. And so for a long time his grave was undiscovered, was hidden. It's hard to imagine Coliseum Boulevard now. If you know where the grave is, you can go see it. It's quite a busy place today, right? But at the time it was all wilderness in the 20s. And so Hayford, leading his troop, realizing what the grave is, going back and reporting it. So we now know where Johnny Appleseed is buried thanks to this Lake Maxinkuckee summer resident, Dr. Hayford, whose daughter was Elaine Boer. If anybody know her, probably. But
And he was the Justice of the Peace, right?
he was Justice of the Peace. Yeah, he was Justice of the Peace. So if you got a speeding ticket going around the South Shore, you went to his garage, as I understand.
Yeah.
A little hammer and everything, like you did. And again, I kind of, as I said, sort of a quick speed through so everybody doesn't fall completely asleep listening to me. But that's been a little run through the bicentennial celebration and other celebrations at Culver. If you want to dive deeper into all this, we are pretty excited about this annual publication. It's going to have a lot of deep dives on this stuff and Culver history and other things. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could give us some more information on the Culver community schools and how they've grown up and how they've come together from where they came together. And also if the Trail of Tears impacted this area, if I understand it correctly.
It did not. Not this area, but just north of us.
Right. Chief Niswaki, I was told he was a friend of people on the East Shore, which totally has impacted Culver. And I wonder if you can give us any information on that.
Sure.
And the community.
You may not get lunch, but I can, yes. So let me take them in order that you asked about them, rather than historical order. Schools. The pioneers started schools pretty much as soon as they got here. They tended to be, we have 3 months off, let's do a little bit of education, but they did start schools, obviously just taught by whoever had the most free time or thought they were a teacher. But they fairly quickly organized schools. They couldn't be more than a few miles apart because that was as far as you could expect the kids to walk. So there were little township schools all over once you start looking, many of which have now been turned into private homes. The easiest one is if you go through Maxinkuckee Village, right on the corner. The second Maxinkuckee Village school is still, there's a lovely brick home. Here in Center Union Township, there were a succession of schools right where we're sitting, or right behind where we're sitting. So Ohio Street didn't exist. So behind, in what's now the library parking lot, and going over that way, there were a succession of small schools built. The population would grow. They would tear down the school and use it for something else. So, for instance, one of the schools that was back there was torn down. We built on the corner down here and became a succession of businesses, eventually owned by the Hand family, who were the Culver's in-laws. And then became a gas station, and eventually the park, which the society provides down on the corner there. So The next school after that, when it was torn down, was moved down half a block by Mr. Osborne, W.O.'s father, and made into the Osborne Hotel. Some of you may remember actually staying in the Osborne Hotel if you came here long enough ago. Finally, they had outgrown all the schools here, so they needed to put up a nice brick building. And the Citizen had one of its funniest covers. They printed a blank space and said, "Is this the future school of Culver?" And Mr. Obermeyer from Borough said, "I will loan you the money to build the school. Just for God's sake, stop talking about it." They built a 4-square, 2-story brick, 3-story brick building on what then became School Street, carved out at the end of the Garn Easterday farm. They quickly outgrew that and built a second building to its south, which is probably too late to go back to that, but in the pictures of those people going around the corner in the parade, there was a school building to their left, to our left, their right, that was the second building of the School Street site. Then they tore down the first building on the School Street site and built the brick elementary school that we're accustomed to today. So those of us who went to school in the brick elementary school remember that there was a scary underground passageway, basement passageway that led to the dining room. And that scary passageway was the basement of the first school building that was built on that corner. Anyway, so that's the schools. There was an urge to consolidation that started in the 60s. Really, it started even in the 1890s. So we picked up schools from all 3 counties neighboring us, and in the 70s, because I just missed going to it, built the school still on the Garn Easterday farm, where you see the school building today, and of course kept using the ones down here as well. That's schools. Trail of Death. The Trail of Death starts in September from 36. You think I've been talking about all weekend.
38 or 30.
38. Yeah.
18 or 19?
1838. From Twin Lakes. And they do in fact march by here on their way to Rochester, on their way to Logansport, on their way to Illinois. But Maxinkuckee, Culver weren't directly involved. Our local tribe, led by Niswagi and his brother Quashquo, who lived where Bigley's orchard was, basically Niswagi's house was there, they left the year before. All these treaties that were negotiated were there's a character named Abel Pepper, who was not a person you want to leave your family or your wallet with, but Abel Pepper negotiated all these treaties that said, you cede your land to the government and you have to leave in 2 years. So 38 was the year that the 36 treaty expired, and so on backwards. In any case, Niswagi and his band and some folks from Bruce Lake traveled with a guy named George W. Prophet, who was apparently better organized than the guy from Twin Lakes, and got them to Kansas with no trouble at all. Other than the fact they didn't want to go to Kansas, but in terms of no loss of life, no difficulty in getting there. So yeah, the most local group left with no particular trouble. Niswagi's impact, I was saying this the other day, so I'm repeating myself, but Niswagi's impact mostly was the fact that his reservation land couldn't go on sale until the federal government gave it to the state. The state then used it to cover its debts from the Wabash and Erie Canal. So if you have land over there and look at the beginning of your property history, we all had those red folders you got from the title company that had all the previous things. So at the top of your title company, it will tell you that your land belonged to the Wabash and Erie Canal Society, or belonged to the state and was sold on behalf of the Wabash and Erie Canal.
But to your point, Steve, Niswagi was very popular among the sort of settler.
Yeah, for as long they were like 2 years, but he was popular with the local settlers, and then he was also popular more generally. Niswagi is a pun in Potawatomi because it means Fletcher, a person who makes arrows, but it also means spokesman. And he became the spokesman for the Potawatomi because the previous guy talked too much. The previous guy was called Oxum, which means something like from the beginning, and he frustrated the negotiators because every time they wanted to negotiate at the beginning of a treaty session, Oxen would say, now, when our ancestors lived at the mouth of the St. Lawrence, which was like in 500 AD. So Mr. Haughey was considered a far better spokesman because they could get down to brass tacks and sign it and negotiate a treaty with him. But yeah, he was apparently friendly with the neighbors as far as that goes.
And I should
There's
clarify.
something at the community school, it says that a basketball player scored 113 points in one game.
He did.
Any comment on that, Culver community, or what we know now as Culver?
Yeah, so I put up that sign. Again, how many days do you have? This gentleman was originally from Arkansas. His family all died off. He had relatives here, the Medburns, moved up here to stay with his relatives. He turned out to be an athletic genius. So he scored against poor Winnemac in a basketball game played in the second floor of, I suppose the second floor, of what's now the apartment building on Pearl Street behind the restaurants there. It was Captain Crooks's entertainment hall. So all of the games were played there. He apparently in those days he could just stand there. They would toss the ball to him and put it in the net. It was just like
His name was Herman Sager.
yeah. I'm sorry. I skipped you over. His name was Herman Sager. People thought that he looked like someone marching to a Sousa march, so he got the nickname Suze. He was the outstanding athlete at Culver. He went at the time. He went for years postgraduate at the academy in lettering. I think we figured at least 3 sports. Was about to go to insert name of the school here, but was recruited at the last minute to go to Ohio, not to the Ohio State University, to a university in Ohio, where he settled down and became a long-term faculty member. And it was in that place that he invented the 3-point shot and also hand signals for football officials. So he's a member of the Indiana State Basketball Hall of Fame, to nobody's particular surprise.
I would just add, when you asked about Trail of Tears, that's the Cherokee event, which is out west.
Yes, we
So
said
ours-
Trail of Death.
Ours is the Trail of Death, but quickly, the reason I unplugged this, since John, we were talking about just 10 seconds, I hope it will come up. Yeah. This is a little preview, well, maybe not. It's coming, it's thinking. Come on, you can do it. Well, it's source scanning, should be that, come on. I was just gonna give you a preview of the cover, but you have to.
You can wait.
Well,
Some of us can wait.
I think it's,
Off to farmer's market.
come on, one more try. Oh, again, it thinks and then it's sad.
Yeah.
Now it says computer.
Oh, HDMI problem. Come on. Think positive. Well. All right.
Well, you can leave it open so people can.
There you go. This is the, yeah, okay. There's the children's book and the magazine, but. Well, one last try. It's thinking. It just doesn't like me today. Okay, well, yeah, I'll leave it open.
Okay, come see.
There you go.
Any other questions? Thank you all. I'll have to see you all next Saturday afternoon.
Your whole time.